Flames crawl up the walls of a vast chasm. The air tastes of sulfur. You hear screams echoing from somewhere far below, then silence, as if the fire itself is holding its breath. Everyone fears hell, but almost no one asks what lies at its deepest point. What if there's a place so dreadful, even demons fear to enter? Many have wondered, could there really be a depth beyond fire? A realm where even light itself dies? You've felt that question linger in the quiet moments, when eternity feels closer than you'd like to admit. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly what Scripture reveals about that final abyss, beyond Sheol, beyond Hades, beyond Gehenna, and the terrifying truth of what waits at the bottom. Before I go, whence I shall not return, to the land of darkness and of the shadow of death, a land of gloom and chaos, where light is as darkness. Job 10:21-22. Welcome to Bible Stories and Mysteries. Like, subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss what the Bible dares to reveal. The ground trembles beneath your feet. You look down, and the earth seems to breathe, cracks glowing like veins of molten fire. A distant cry rises from below, too faint to be human. You step closer, heat burns your skin. Then comes a whisper, not from above, but from beneath. Everyone talks about hell, preachers warn about it, artists paint it, children grow up fearing it. Yet almost no one dares to ask the forbidden question, what lies beyond its flame? The Scriptures speak of many depths, but they all point towards something deeper still, a place where punishment becomes silence, where even demons are afraid to tread. Job once called it the land of darkness and deep shadow, a land of gloom and chaos, where light is as darkness. Job 10:21-22. That verse is more than poetry. It is a door into the unseen world that the Bible only opens a crack, and what peers back through that crack is not merely terror, but revelation. Picture a vast kingdom under the surface of creation, not made of soil or rock, but of memory. Every cry ever uttered against God echoes there, each one forming the walls of this spiritual abyss. If heaven is light expanding without end, this is darkness collapsing into itself. You might wonder, why does God allow such a place to exist? Why not erase it, as one erases a nightmare upon waking? But Scripture shows that hell is not chaos gone wild. It is order inverted. It is justice taking form where grace was refused. There's something profoundly unsettling about that thought. The idea that hell is not accidental, but deliberate. Every flame, every echo, every chain forged with purpose. For if sin was rebellion against divine order, then judgment must also bear order's design. In your own heart, you felt a smaller version of that place, the moment you turned from what you knew was right and felt a shadow fall across your soul. That shadow is not just guilt, it's the faint reflection of a reality deeper than emotion. The same cold whisper that fills the caverns of Sheol begins first within us. Even now, scientists search the universe for black holes, points where matter and time vanish into endless gravity. But Scripture spoke of a similar truth long before physics could name it. Beneath creation lies a gravity of judgment, a pull that even the proudest soul cannot escape. What if that gravity has a center? What if hell itself has a heart? The ancient prophets hinted that beneath every fire is a silence, and beneath every silence a will. The forbidden question then is not only what lies at the bottom, but why it exists at all. The answer begins not in myth, but in revelation. And to find it, we must descend layer by layer into the darkness Scripture dares to name. Because beneath every shadow, something is waiting. A single ember drifts downward into the chasm. It floats through smoke like a falling star, swallowed by deeper shadows. For every flicker of fire, there seems to be another layer beneath it, another realm of silence below the screams. The Bible never speaks of hell as a single, simple place. It reveals layers, each one a reflection of how far creation can move away from its creator. In Hebrew, the first name given was Sheol, the realm of the dead. Not yet a place of torment, but of stillness, where both righteous and wicked awaited their fate. It was the shadow between breaths, the waiting room of eternity. Then came the Greek word Hades, the domain of lost souls. Jesus himself described it in vivid terms when he told of the rich man and Lazarus. In Hades, being in torment, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham far off and Lazarus in his bosom, and he called out, "Father Abraham, have mercy on me, for I am in anguish in this flame." But Abraham said, "Between us and you, a great chasm has been fixed." Luke 16:23-26. That great chasm still divides the unseen world. On one side, those comforted by mercy. On the other, those consumed by their own refusal of it. Yet even Hades was not the end. Jesus warned of a place he called Gehenna, not just a grave, not just a realm of waiting, but a fire that never goes out. The word came from the valley of Hinnom, a cursed ravine outside Jerusalem, where refuse burned day and night. To the people of his time, Gehenna was the ultimate symbol of divine rejection. Imagine those three layers like descending rings: Sheol, where the dead sleep; Hades, where the lost awaken; Gehenna, where fire purifies by consuming, each one darker than the last. But Scripture hints at something far below even Gehenna, a place untouched by light, sealed away since before humanity drew its first breath. If Sheol is silence and Hades is flame, then what lies beneath must be something beyond human measure. A place where punishment ends and containment begins. Some ancient writings called it the pit of pits. Others, the underworld beneath the underworld. It is as if every act of rebellion carved a deeper hollow into the structure of reality. Sin does not just stain, it sinks. Think of it like gravity again. Each sin pulls downward deeper into separation until even the concept of time begins to collapse. That is why hell's layers are not physical, they are moral. They show how far a being can fall from God's presence until it reaches a depth where light no longer remembers its own name. And yet, even that darkness has its ruler, its gate, and its purpose. Because beneath these layers, a door stands closed, sealed since the dawn of creation. And one day, according to Revelation, that door will open. Comment below, "Even darkness trembles before his light." Let's see who's still watching and searching for the truth. A sound like thunder shakes the air. The earth splits, not in an earthquake, but in obedience. Smoke pours upward, thick and black, blotting out the stars. From deep below, something stirs. The book of Revelation describes this moment with terrifying precision. And the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from heaven to earth, and he was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. He opened the shaft of the abyss, and smoke rose from it like the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the smoke from the shaft. Revelation 9:1-2. The word used here, abyssos, means bottomless pit. It is not merely a place, it is a prison, a domain of restraint where God himself has locked away beings too dangerous to walk the earth or even roam the spirit world. Picture that scene. The trumpet blast echoes across heaven and a fallen star descends, symbol of authority given, not stolen. A key turns in a lock unseen since creation, and the seal breaks. The smoke that rises is not from flame, but from corruption. The scent of rebellion burning without air. For centuries, theologians have debated whether the abyss is literal or symbolic, but the text leaves no doubt about its purpose. It is a boundary, a containment field for evil that cannot yet be judged, but must not be free. This is not just punishment, whispers the Spirit through the Word. It's containment. Because not all darkness is chaos. Some of it is discipline. Even God's wrath moves with order. Imagine the spiritual architecture of this. At the base of creation lies a pit vast enough to swallow mountains, yet sealed tighter than the vaults of heaven. Within it, fallen angels, those who crossed divine limits in the earliest days, wait in chains of shadow. They are conscious, aware, but powerless. Time itself does not touch them. Eternity keeps them. You can almost hear the echo of their silence. The abyss is not filled with screams, it is filled with waiting. And yet the moment the trumpet sounds, smoke fills the sky, and something ancient begins to rise again. It's not freedom they seek, it's influence. The same deception that started in Eden finds new breath through the cracks of the pit. What's terrifying is not what escapes, but that it was once restrained. If God restrained certain powers now, what would the world become if he lifted his hand for only a moment? Every breath you take in safety, every sunrise untouched by chaos, is mercy holding the key. One day, Scripture says, that key will turn again, and what lies sealed will rise once more, not in rebellion, but in revelation. Because the abyss, like everything else, serves the will of the one who holds the key. But who are these prisoners of the deep, and why were they condemned to such a place? The smoke clears, revealing walls not made of stone, but of darkness itself, folds of shadow spiraling downward without end. Deep within those folds, you sense movement, chains that clink without sound, wings that no longer remember how to rise. For if God did not spare the angels when they sinned, but cast them into Tartarus and committed them to chains of deepest darkness to be kept until the judgment. 2 Peter 2:4. Tartarus, a word used only once in all of Scripture, as if God himself whispered it with caution. It is the lowest region of the abyss, the dungeon beneath the dungeon. A place not created for mankind, but for those celestial beings who defied the very boundaries of heaven. Imagine them, creatures of light, now locked in night, once radiant with purpose, now burning with regret. Their brilliance turned against its maker, their wisdom twisted into pride. What began as rebellion in heaven became captivity beneath the earth. In Greek mythology, Tartarus was the prison of the Titans, ancient powers chained in endless torment. But Scripture gives that word a new, terrible reality. These are not myths. These are fallen spirits, restrained by divine decree until the appointed day, when even their judgment will be revealed. The air in that place would not burn, it would freeze. No warmth, no breath, no voice. The silence there is not peace, it is pressure. An eternal awareness that the glory they abandoned still shines somewhere above them, forever unreachable. Picture a sea of shadows suspended in void. Each chain glows faintly with symbols of divine authority. They cannot break them, they cannot sleep, they remember heaven but cannot touch it. They remember light, but it no longer remembers them. Why does Scripture show us this? Why pull back the veil on such horror? Because it reminds us that even the most powerful created beings are not beyond accountability. Power does not protect against judgment, it invites it. Pride is the gravity that drags even angels down. You felt a hint of that same pull, the temptation to rise higher than obedience, to define truth on your own terms. Every act of pride on earth echoes the rebellion that began in heaven. And just as those angels fell through disobedience, every human heart that resists God begins its descent. Tartarus is more than a prison. It's a prophecy. It declares that no creature, no kingdom, no empire stands above the justice of God. Even Satan himself, for all his dominion, fears the depth of that pit. The book of Revelation suggests he knows his time is short, not because he will rule forever in darkness, but because one day even he will be swallowed by it. For beneath Tartarus lies a silence deeper than chains, a silence that holds not punishment, but the death of purpose itself. And in that silence, the echoes begin again. No flame burns here, no cry survives. The air is still, too still. If sound could exist in this place, it would echo endlessly, yet here even echoes die. The psalmist once wrote words that seem whispered from this very depth. You have put me in the lowest pit, in the darkest depths. Your wrath lies heavy upon me, and you overwhelm me with all your waves. Psalm 88:6. Hell's most haunting truth is not its fire, it's its silence. The ancient Hebrews called the grave Sheol, but David saw beyond the grave into something colder, emptier, lonelier, a realm without sound, without light, without presence. Picture a vast expanse of nothingness. No wind, no heartbeat, no memory of warmth. It's as if time has been exiled from itself. Every moment stretches into eternity, not with motion, but with stillness. This is not punishment by fire. It's punishment by distance. A soul aware of what it has lost, but forever unable to reach it. The fire consumes the body, the silence consumes the being. When people imagine hell, they see flames and torment. But Scripture reveals a deeper torment, the absence of God. For every spark of joy, every note of music, every heartbeat of love originates in His presence. Remove Him, and everything collapses into nothingness. That is why, even now, hell begins before death. When a life turns from God, the colors fade. The laughter grows hollow, the spirit grows tired, no matter how loudly it celebrates. The echo of eternal silence begins as a whisper within the living. You've felt that whisper. The emptiness that no achievement fills, the quiet dread when prayer becomes a memory instead of a conversation. That is not merely sadness, it's a warning. The first tremor of eternity pulling away. The prophets understood this well. Isaiah spoke of those who walk in darkness and have no light, yet do not cry out to the Lord. To them, silence becomes home, and soon that home becomes a grave. But in the lowest pit, something mysterious happens. Even there, the awareness of God cannot be erased. It lingers as longing. The condemned remember what they rejected. That memory becomes their eternal echo. Some theologians have called this the second death, not the death of body or mind, but of connection. To be cut off from the source of all being is to lose the meaning of existence itself. This is why Scripture speaks of outer darkness, a place outside of every circle of light, where nothing reflects back. It's not chaos, but isolation perfected. And perhaps the most terrifying truth of all, God does not need to send anyone there. The path begins whenever we choose silence over surrender. Still, the prophets were shown visions beyond even this emptiness, glimpses of regions so deep that words could scarcely describe them. And some saw what awaited at the very threshold of that bottomless pit. Darkness stirs like a living thing. From its depths rise faces, half memory, half flame, shapes that once were kings, now hollowed by eternity. Their crowns have turned to ash, their voices to mockery. The prophets saw this place long before men tried to name it. Sheol beneath is stirred up to meet you when you come. It rouses the shades to greet you, all who were leaders of the earth. It makes all of them rise from their thrones, all who were kings of the nations. Isaiah 14:9. Isaiah's words are both poetry and judgment. He sees a vision where the proud descend, not merely into death, but into recognition. The moment when the rulers of darkness welcome a new captive among them. The prophet speaks of Babylon's fall, yet the vision stretches far beyond any single empire. It is the spiritual pattern of every kingdom that exalts itself above God. The Book of Enoch, one of the oldest Jewish writings outside Scripture, echoes a similar image. I saw deep valleys burning with fire, where the stars of heaven were bound because they transgressed the command of the Lord. Those stars were not celestial bodies. They were angels, imprisoned beneath creation, each one a monument to rebellion. Imagine the prophet's terror. Standing at the edge of that abyss, he sees entire ages swallowed in a single breath. The proud become prisoners, the brilliant become blind. Every echo of defiance is answered by the stillness of divine finality. This is the theology of descent, the truth that every being who rises without God eventually falls toward his justice. Pride always drags light downward. It is gravity with a soul. And in that descent, the prophet saw patterns that would repeat through history. Kings building towers, empires declaring themselves eternal, men naming themselves gods. Each one descending, each one swallowed by the same abyss of self-worship. Isaiah's words tremble with warning. You said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven, I will set my throne on high. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to Sheol, to the depths of the pit. Isaiah 14:13-15. Those lines were aimed at Lucifer himself, the first to dream of a throne above God. His rebellion carved the first wound into eternity, and the scar became the abyss. Even now, echoes of that rebellion whisper through human pride. The same spirit that said, I will ascend, still breathes through every age that forgets humility. The prophets heard it in their own nations. We hear it in ours. The visions of Enoch and Isaiah are not ancient fantasies. They are mirrors. They show us what becomes of light that refuses to bend toward its source. Picture it again, the depths stirring, kings rising from their thrones of dust to greet the next soul who thought power could buy eternity. And if this is what the prophets saw in their visions, what happens when that pit itself meets its own end? Because Scripture says, even the abyss will not last forever. The sky rolls back like a curtain. The stars fade. The universe itself seems to hold its breath. For the first time since creation, there is no more below or above, only judgment standing before the throne. John the Apostle saw it, and his words tremble with awe and terror. And the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Revelation 20:10, the lake of fire. Not merely another layer of hell, but the end of hell, the moment when every shadow, every rebellion, every evil thought returns to its source and is consumed by divine justice. Picture the scene. The earth and the heavens flee from his presence. The abyss, once bottomless, collapses inward. The imprisoned spirits of Tartarus, the ghosts of empires, the demons of ages past, all are brought forth, not as victors, but as evidence. The fire is not chaos, it is verdict. This is where history itself burns away. Flames rise higher than mountains, but they no longer consume bodies. They consume lies. Every deception that promised freedom apart from God is exposed and reduced to ash. This is not vengeance, it is purification. It is the moment when all false thrones crumble before the only true one. For those who loved evil, the lake is torment. For creation itself, it is liberation. The universe breathes again. Darkness had its time. Now it has its end. In a mystery too vast for human thought, even hell bows before the holiness of God. The prison becomes the pyre. The chains become fuel for the final fire. What was once infinite separation now implodes into absolute presence. This is why Scripture calls it the second death. Not because it kills again, but because it finishes what death began. The first death separated body from soul. The second separates corruption from existence. When the last shadow burns, even evil itself will be no more. We often imagine eternity as two opposite kingdoms, heaven above and hell below, but the Revelation changes that picture. There is only one kingdom in the end, light unchallenged, unshared, unending. The rest is silence. You can almost hear it, the roar of flames devouring even darkness. The The screams are gone. What remains is the sound of creation being remade. And when that fire dies down, something extraordinary happens. Nothing is left to burn. The deepest place of hell is not eternal chaos. It is the moment when evil itself ceases to exist. But before that day comes, Scripture speaks of one more reality: the great separation between those who belong to the light and those who turned away. The fire fades, the sound of judgment quiets, and in the stillness that follows, only one thing remains: distance. A distance so vast it cannot be crossed, yet so real it can be felt. Paul wrote of this mystery with words sharper than flame. They will be punished with everlasting destruction, shut out from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of his might. 2 Thessalonians 1:9. This is the essence of the second death, not torment without, but emptiness within. No screams, no chains, no fire, just the unbearable awareness of absence. Picture a vast horizon where souls stand in shadow, reaching toward a light they can no longer see. They remember his face, but the memory fades like a dream upon waking. That moment, the realization that his presence is gone, is the true fire that never dies. In every age, humanity has feared physical pain more than spiritual loss. Yet Scripture shows us that the deepest agony is not the body's destruction, but the soul's disconnection. To be shut out is to exist without purpose, without belonging, without hope. It's easy to think of judgment as something that happens to others, criminals, tyrants, the obviously wicked. But the great separation is not about scale of sin. It's about proximity to God. Heaven and hell are not just destinations. They are relationships extended into eternity. What we choose now continues forever. Even now you can sense the gravity of that choice. Each prayer ignored, each whisper of conscience silenced, each act of pride. These are the quiet steps away from his presence. Imagine two travelers walking together through the night. One turns toward the rising sun, the other continues into the dark. At first, both see the light behind them, but the farther one walks, the dimmer it becomes. Eventually, it disappears, not because the sun has moved, but because the traveler has. So it is with the soul. God does not vanish, we do. His presence is constant, his mercy unending. Yet to reject him is to walk willingly into the dark until even the memory of light feels foreign. That is the great separation. A boundary not drawn by God's cruelty, but by human choice. Love cannot force itself. Light cannot dwell where eyes refuse to open. And here lies the greatest tragedy of all. Even as hell fades and the universe renews, there remain souls who stand outside the gates of light, not because they were unloved, but because they would not be loved. How far are you from the presence of God today? That question is not condemnation, it's invitation. Because even now, as long as breath remains, the distance can still be crossed. And in the next breath of eternity, light begins to break through the darkness again. Darkness lingers, but it is no longer alive. The pit is still, the fire's gone cold. And yet, there, in the silence, a faint glow begins to form. It is not fire this time. It is light, soft, steady, uninvited. David once wrote words that seemed impossible, yet now they echo through eternity. If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. Psalm 139:8. Even in the depths of Sheol, God is not absent. His justice fills the universe, yes, but so does his mercy. The same hand that built the stars also reaches into the dust. The same voice that spoke light into being still whispers through the smoke of the abyss. Picture it, the light moving downward, cutting through layers of ancient gloom. It finds the walls of Tartarus, the halls of Hades, the ashes of Gehenna, and it stops for no one, because this light is not creation. It is the Creator himself. The prophets foresaw it. Christ fulfilled it. When he hung upon the cross and breathed his last, Scripture says he descended into the lower regions of the earth, not as a prisoner, but as a conqueror. For 3 days, eternity trembled. The keys of death rattled in the hands of the one who had overcome them. The gates of the abyss opened, not to release evil, but to announce defeat. That is why the Creed still declares he descended into hell, not to suffer, but to shine, not to be chained, but to proclaim freedom to those who were bound. The deepest mystery of all is this: there is no depth where God cannot go, no night too dark, no soul too lost, no distance too great. The flames of judgment may consume, but his mercy restores. Perhaps you feel that you've walked too far, that the silence has already taken root inside you, but the same Christ who shattered the gates of the abyss can speak your name in that silence, and it must release you. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine that faint light breaking through your own darkness. Every regret, every sin, every secret thought, it all trembles in the presence of grace. Hell has many names, but heaven has one: love. And that love cannot be stopped by walls, flames, or time. Even in the deepest pit, hope breathes. Even in eternal night, light remembers your name. Because the story of the abyss ends not with despair, but with deliverance. And the same God who ruled the depths now calls you upward, into the light that never fades. Leave a comment below. His mercy reaches even the abyss. If this message spoke to your soul, consider supporting this ministry through Super Thanks. Every gift helps us bring more biblical revelations to those walking through darkness. Your light makes this message shine farther. Share this video with someone who needs light today. Subscribe to Bible Stories and Mysteries and turn on the bell so you never miss what heaven is still revealing.